How's it going, everyone? TCG here, and today I'm going to be going over my Mega Kangaskhan, Mega Abs, the Mega Box deck that I've been playing for quite a while. Um, Before we start, I have not been posting consistently again. I am so sorry. I've been extremely busy and just have not had the time to post a bunch of videos. But I have been very active in the Discord server, so if you haven't yet, go join the Discord server. The link will be into the description. I typically respond very quickly there with anyone who has any questions regarding decks, and inevitably post what I do end up playing for regionals. So before we start with the video, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, EGS, or Elite GameSpot. Elite GameSpot is the place that you want for not only all your gradings, but all of your singles and products. So be sure to go check them out. So to start off with the list, I will openly say this is not my 60. This was Trevor Reed's 60. I believe he ended up playing at Seattle. If not, I think it was a couple cards different. I was messing with Mega Box, and there was a couple card difference. Like, I had 2 Lilies along with 2 Iono, 2 Cypher, and I had 1 less Stretcher. And then I kind of sat there. I was like, I like the 3rd Iono, I like the 3rd Stretcher. So those ended up making it into the final draft. So I'm going to be going over... Well, I don't want to do that. I want to do statistics. So I'm going to be going over the matchups for the deck and what to do essentially for them and why I ended up choosing this deck. So a lot of people ask me, so why didn't you just stick with KangaBouff? KangaBouff has been your deck. Are you blue balling us? What is going on here? So the reason why I chose this over KangaBouff was just purely because it felt better in a vacuum, and I genuinely believe Absol is just probably one of the most broken attackers in the entire game. With the Claw of Darkness doing 200 damage for 2 Dark Colors, your opponent reveals their hand, you discard a card you find there. With that and Toad Scrolls, you have so much control over the game, and it's not even funny. Like, this card is absolutely broken, and then paired with Terminal Period, so the things that you absolutely have a problem with, mid to even late game, Terminal Period just deals with, and because you have, because you have access to Kangaskhan to just draw 2 cards whenever it's in the active spot, the combination between Latios and Pecharunt allows you to do that, because you're able to free retreat into the Kangaskhan with Latios, draw 2 cards, and then Pecharunt the Absol back up. Yes, you're poisoned, but you actually use that to your advantage, because you have 3 copies of Monkey Dory, so you're able to throw it on Pokemon to fix math in the incoming turns or set up Terminal Period plays. Now, I know the number one question from people that are probably going to be saying something is, Kenny, you said Toedscruel was bad. Yes, I did say Toedscruel was bad. And I still believe it is one of the worst answers for Golden Go. But I think it's really good and was really good going into Puerto Rico, especially with Zoroark seeing as much hype that it did. Unfortunately, I don't really have any Zoroark lists to show. But there was quite a few Zoroark lists that got greedy and weren't playing Rod, and they were just playing like the 1-1 Zekrom, 1-1 or the 1-1 Zekrom and Resh. So if you were able to get down Toedscruel and just completely chase these Zekroms, they just have little ways around it, which made it a better matchup, which usually would be hard because they have Binding Mochi, Black Belt, and Zekrom to kind of blow up at either one of your attackers, which sucks. So that's why I kept the Toedscruel in for that one. It's also really good in the mirror match and against Guardy even. So Toedscruel for that event was very good. I'm probably still going to keep it moving forward. But yeah, that's everything else is pretty much self-explanatory. I know some people are going to be like, oh, why do you play 3 Lilies over... or 3 Iono over, like, any Lilies? I think it's just because, like, Iono is just that broken of a card. Being able to brick your opponent off Claw of Darkness and seeing more cards on yourself. Because this is, like, a go-from-behind deck, which sounds weird, because this is probably the most aggressive come-from-behind deck in the format outside of Guardy. But that's why there's, like, so many comeback cards in this deck. Like, there's 2 Catcher, 3 Iono, there's the Fez, of course, to draw more cards. You have the Cypher to where at any point in the game you're able to just search for any 2 cards you want. You've also got Clutch Trap stuff, and Watchtower to even cancel opposing Kangaskhan's or Blood Moon, so it prevents your opponent from playing the game. So, it's just a beautiful deck. I absolutely love this deck, and I love playing it. Moving into Puerto Rico, trying to see if I can... I'm pretty sure we still can't access the deck list. Yeah, we can. But what I can do is I can kind of go over by doing this. No, I put the wrong slide on. By going over this and going over my matchups and what ended up happening. So round 1, I played against Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl is already a favored matchup. Um, of course, they played Mega Frostlass, which I didn't even see until game 2 when they pointed it out. And this is because I don't know why they pointed it out, because normally like Mega Frostlass would have got me, but I noticed Luminous Energy in game 1 when they started attaching them, and I was like, okay. And then I saw the Moltres, and I was like, okay, wouldn't surprise me if there was a Mega Frostlass. So they just drew poorly, but normally in that matchup you go Absol. You don't want to put down Kangaskhan for the most part, because that's just a free 3 prizes for them to sit on. Claw of Darkness plus Terminal Period is just a broken strategy against them. Out Monkey Dorying them is extremely good. So if you're able to get that out, it's pretty much just wraps. If they ever hit into you, just double Monkey Move Terminal Period them. And getting out Lively State and Bravery Charm just kind of cooks them. And that's exactly what happened in both games. Round 2, I actually hit the mirror match. And the mirror match is subjective to what you want your board to be. It just really depends on where you're at. So the board that I chased, essentially, was I'd get out Toad School on the bench. I'd get Kangaskhan in the active spot to accelerate, because you still want the draw power, because D, who draws cards in that matchup and accelerates energy the fastest, will win. Like, double turbo energizing is almost almost straight up game winning in a lot of senses. So getting out Toad School on the bench, Latias, Pecharunt, and some people might argue not putting out Latias, but if you have Kangaskhan, you 100% put down Latias, you just don't get clutch trapped, because being clutch trapped sucks. Prizing Pecharunt is probably the worst possible scenario for that. If you put out Latias too, it also baits your opponent to take the 2 free prizes, which, is fine. Like, they can take the 2, and then you can just start clawing them back. It also gives you another way to get Cypher Maniac for Mist, and just come from, like I said, pretty much come from behind. There's a lot of senses, though, where or a lot of cases where you don't also bench down the Latias, but my board essentially looked like Double Monkey Dory, Toad's Cool, Pecharunt, and Absol. That was the most consistent board that I ended up doing. In some cases, I did swap the Monkey Dory for the Latias, depending on where I was in the game. If you set up Absol with Mist Energy, the matchup is like pretty much in your favor, and you can do it more consistently because you play Cypher. And Triple Night Stretcher is also extremely good in that matchup, because they're going to try and rip energies and countercatcher / bosses, because their idea is to just like I said, go behind or just be super aggressive, because with the mirror match, they don't want to hit into you. You don't want to hit into them, because then they run into Terminal Period. If you know you have Mist and they have no way to remove the Mist energy and their way is bossing around you, then it's safe to go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to start attacking the Absol now, and then I'm fine, because then it's harder for them to deal with. But more times than none, they're going to start chasing Monkey or even chasing Toadscroll. You want to get the Bravery Charm on the Pecharunt and then the Bravery Charm on the Absol. Those are where your commitments want to be, because if not, they're going to chase the Pecharunt for a free 2 prizes, and it sucks. Trust me, because they can just go, okay, I'm going to get out my own Toadscroll, rip a Fez, rip the Petch, rip the boss, or rip the countercatcher, rip the Pecharunt, and it's super, super bad. And that's exactly what happened in game 1. I prized Charlie and I lost. Game 2 and 3, I pretty much got the perfect setup. Started just ripping cards out of their hands, ripped a boss off the top for game in game 2. Game 3, if I had more time, if I had even 5 more minutes, I lost the game. They just did not have a way around it. So yeah, round 3, I played against Guardy. Game 1, I got Frillish locked immediately out of the game, and I just kept bricking. Game 2, steamrolled them. Against Guardy, your board really should be Kangaskhan, Latias, Pecharunt, Absol, Toadscool. Sometimes I put down Monkey Dories depending on where I'm at in the game, because being able to do Adrenabrain damage off your board isn't really imperative, but it also is bad for you to give them prizes with Scream Tail. And that's exactly what they're going to do, because they're either going to chase the Toadscroll or they're going to start chasing monkeys. So having an energy on Pecharunt also helps in that matchup, because it allows you to have a late game pivot to where if Absol gets knocked out, you're still able to have a big attacker in the late game to go like countercatcher or boss onto the Guardy, or preferably countercatcher Iono. So that's pretty much what I did game 2 and 3. Game 3, I will note, I missed energy / energize for 3 turns, and I still managed to win, because they just were not drawing either outside of Frillish. And then I finally got the cards for Absol, still didn't draw, noticed, and I immediately Claw of Darkness. No, they got out Guardy, but they didn't have energy. So when I finally set up, I went Boss Guardy and got out Toad's Cruel. And then I saw their other Guardy was in their hand, and I immediately pitched it in the bin, and they were like, oh, yeah. Okay, so then they started Screamtail sniping, because they did have a Screamtail. They were trying to snipe around like monkeys or like deal damage to the Absol. So then they immediately sniped the Toad's Cruel. I put the Toad's Cruel back in place. Adrenabrain the damage, knocked out the Screamtail, and they were pretty much just out of attackers at that point. They just can't attack anymore. They can sit there and mind bend and attach, but then it's just like, okay, I drop Petra and drop Latios. I'm just resetting it and just Trouble Monkey Dory moving. So that's what you want to do against Guardy. Round 4, this is where it gets a little weird. I played against Teal Mask, Meganium, Arboliva. Of all things, that was just a really weird matchup to run into, but one of the biggest advantages was I overheard that they were playing it, and at first I didn't believe whoever said that. I was like, yeah, right, Jose Mars, and they're definitely playing, freaking Arboliva to an SPE, yeah, right, and then they mulliganed, and I saw the Dolive, and I was like, they were not joking. Okay, sick. So, in that moment, I'm glad I led Kangaskhan, because that's actually how you're supposed to approach a matchup. You never go Absol, because that thing's weak to grass. It is just a free 3 prizes on your opponent. In that matchup, if you, for some reason, end up running into it, just get double Toadstool, double Monkey Dory, double Kangaskhan down, and you should be able to win that matchup fairly easily, depending on how it goes. Typically, they're going to try and take turns to set up the Meganium and set up a big Teal Mask while you have Precious Trolley, Lively Stadium plus Bravery Charm on the Kangaskhan. And then what you can do yourself, because their A-Spec is Max Rod, you can sit there and start clutch trapping stuff so that you're able to kind of set up and push damage back through like Pecharunt, so you can make the math work on your Kangaskhan. Because if you knock out the Teal Mask with the 6-7 energies with Toad's Crow in play, their only recovery is Max Rod and Night Stretcher, and that list particular played 15 energy. I learned that after game 2, and I was like, wow, that's... No wonder why he just did not care. But you kill the Teal Mask. He goes into Arboliva. He snipes Toadstool. It's like, okay, our boss take another knockout on a Teal Mask. He can take the 3 prizes with another one, or he could snipe another Pokemon and just finish up the game with Boss Blood Moon. Game 3 was very hard. I did end up taking, I think it was like 2 prizes up front under Itchy Pollen by just bossing and using Adrenabrain. One of the biggest problems was then he found a way to knock out the Kangaskhan out of absolutely nowhere. Because I didn't realize he played E-Switch. So he ended up going double E-Switch, blew up Kangaskhan. I was like, okay, well now what do I do? I countercut your Badoo, put out Lively Stadium, just start clutch locking it. I use Adrenabrain to start like loading damage onto... I think it was the Teal Mask under Lively Stadium. So then eventually I bossed up the Fez. Countercatcher Ionoed, brought up the Fez, hit it for 200 with Kangaskhan. He drew, retreat, attacked, didn't have knockout with Teal Mask. And then I immediately went, okay, sick. Penny up the Kangaskhan. Adrenabrain, knock out the Badoo, Adrenabrain, knock out the Fez, and then Blood Moon the Teal Mask. So, it was pretty easy at that point. Round 5, I hit another Guardy. This one played Balloon and Diancie. That was a little peculiar, but it's like not... It's hard, but it's not unwinnable. The Diancie definitely is annoying. Game 1, he prized it, so I just did what I did in round 3. Game 2, he actually misplayed and did not notice that the Lively Stadium was in play, so he thought he had knockout on Pecharunt and burned his last countercatcher to take the knockout on it. And then he used Mega Diancie and Adrenabrain to somewhere else on the board when it had a Bravery Charm and Lively Stadium. Didn't realize that it didn't take a knockout, so I immediately just retreated and attached a Dark and sat on it. Did not give him damage. He didn't have any monkeys accessible because I had Toad's Cruel out and all 3 of his Dark Energy and the Rod were gone because I ripped it with Claw of Darkness earlier. So he had to essentially sit there and wait for me to draw Boss. I eventually threw up Kangaskhan, drew into Boss, Pecharunt and Yveltal, retreat, and took the knockout on the Guardy for game. Round 6 was against Zoroark. In Zoroark, I'm still unsure on how I want to approach that matchup, especially Vincent Owen played Super Rod, which is extremely bad. If they end up playing Super Rod, the match goes from like playable to pretty much unwinnable. Um, this is because one of the main strategies, like I said earlier, with Zoroark is you want to get out Toadscruel and you want to stop them from being able to recurse through Zekrom or Reshiram. Vincent played double Zekrom, double Binding Mochi, and Super Rod. So there was no way that I was going to be able to run him over. I ended up getting Absol killed both returning turns that I used him, and it was just not good. Ended up losing that match really hard. Um, and because that was such a blowout, I do want to explain round 8 on how I actually approach that matchup. Round 7, I played against Raging Bolt, and after taking that loss to the Zoroark when he flipped over Teal Mask, and then I started seeing like other pieces, I was like, oh my god, I'm just got paired in a Raging Bolt on my win, and no! He opens up Teal Mask, Teal Dances, and passes. I go turn 1 Energize. He goes Teal Dance, pass. And I immediately presumed to throw up the Kangaskhan, flip aheads, and the game was over. Game 2, Raging Bolt did what Raging Bolt did, and it rolled me. Game 3, I took a gamble, and he took a gamble. Essentially, I energized, but the only Pokemon I could use to energize was Yveltal. And he immediately Prime Catcher Sodded, looked at his board, and he went 280, and then slammed 4 energy off the discard, and I was like, okay, I guess we're vibing. And then he immediately presumed to double Adrenabrain with like E-Switch shenanigans, and then took the knockout on the Raging Bull. They took the knockout onto the Kangaskhan. I took the knockout through a Blood Moon, I believe it was, and then I Iono'd them. They didn't draw well off of their Fez at all. I was able to immediately go boss and loop the Blood Moon again, and the game was over. Going into so I guess to approach Raging Bolt in that sense, and that matchup should not be winnable in any capacity, but because my opponent, I think their list was a little peculiar to say the least. They had Iron Leaves, which is like standard in Raging Bolt, so you just don't lose to Clutch Lock and other things. There was Glass Trumpet in there, if I remember correctly, and they had Battle Cage too, which was annoying at some cases. I was like, Battle Cage? Like, I mean, I can't Adrenabrain to anything, but the only thing I want to take out is the active at this point. So, I think they played Qianpao, which is a little annoying too. Like, there was just like small things that were just extremely annoying in that matchup. But, I digress. I guess the board to go there, they don't really play Recovery. So there's almost like, there is an argument for Toadscruel. If you're able to take the knockout onto the Raging Bolt, it's fine, but... So what I like to do is, because they play Leaves and they play Teal Mask, I ignore the Absol completely and I get out Mega Kangaskhan as your main attacker. I almost completely ignore Monkey Dory unless I know I'm falling behind. And I play for attack with Kangaskhan, take 2, attack with Pecharunt, take something, because it's a 6, 12, 18. So if you had to have like clutched for 2 turns on something, or like if they hit into you for any amount of damage, you're able to do Adrenabrain, you're able to take a knockout there, or if they drop like Latias, which I don't think he did at any point, Pecharunt's able to blow them up, or you could stream Blood Moon twice off of Ionos. That's pretty much your game plan against it. Round 8, I play against LASU runner-up Sebastian Lashmet. Sebastian was playing the 1 Reshiram, 1 Zekrom with the Triple Knight Stretcher, maybe double. I don't remember what his list was. I saw it on X, but that's what I saw it as. Once I figured out that there was only 1 Zekrom and he wasn't playing Rod, because I was pretty much going off after I saw him flip over Zoro. I was like, yeah, I mean, if you guys play Rod, like the match was just like really unfavored for me, and he was just like, oh yeah. So I learned real quick after I got the Toadscruel out, because I just essentially the board you want is Absol active, double Monkey, double Toad, plus I think it was Pecharunt, because I was afraid of Yveltal Clutch. And I pretty much bricked him off of Claw of Darkness, plus Slime Mold Colony, being able to prevent him from recovering the Zekrom. And then I didn't know that, and in game 1, I think he said he either misplayed or I just ran him completely out of ran him dry out of resources. And then he ended up conceding and decking out. And then in game 2, he prized his Reshiram, so he was only able to attack with Zekrom, and he wasn't able to rip it out of the prizes out of like the 1 or 2 he took. So then I just lost zoned the Zekrom twice and ended up conceding the game. Round 9 I played against Ross. There's really nothing to this Rule Edge matchup other than you have to kind of pray you either get good Claw of Darkness or you Clutch Lock him or even Rapid Fire combo. Because the difference between... So I played Ross at Milwaukee, but I was playing KangaBouff Mega Absol. So a little bit different than what I ended up playing now. Of course, like the Bouffalons are absent, so I wasn't actually able to abuse like a 410 HP Mega Kangaskhan in that game, which... Believe me, or 430. 440? What is that math? It's 50 plus 60. That's 110 plus 30, 140. So yeah, 340 HP. It's annoying. It's bad. The matchup's completely like if I had to select any room in there, that would have been the one at X11 that I didn't want to hit. And I saw him. That matchup is pretty much praying Absol can do some very clutch Claw of Darknesses, hoping they brick. Ross didn't. Getting some Yveltal clutches and Blood Moon plays. Pecharon's also relatively strong attacker depending on how many you can get out or how much damage you can dish out, and if you end up living a hit. Otherwise, Monkey Dory just doesn't do anything. He played 3 Jet. I thought he played 4. Otherwise, I probably would have played for the clutch lock a little bit easier. Because there was a point in game, I think it was game 1, where I saw all 3 Jets down and I didn't play for it. I knew he played Palpad Turo and at least 3 Jets, but I couldn't remember the counts of his deck. So it kind of bit me hard there. I probably should have known. I probably should have limitless checked and seen whether or not he played the 3 or 4 Jets, because in Milwaukee, I believe he played the 4 Jets, and I was like, oh, I can't do it. But it was fine. Moving on to round 10, it was Joltik Box. That matchup is pretty hard. It didn't help that he played not only Light Ball Tool Scrapper plus Iron Leaves, but he also played Kieran and Future Booster Capsule, which ended up just winning him the game. I did not see the Kieran, and when he dropped the Kieran, he actually won the game because of it. The whole strategy there, in my opinion, from what I've been able to piece together, is get out Lively Stadium, place Bravery Charm, Clutch Lock the Joltik, hit the Pikachu under Lively Stadium, force the Pikachu to hit into you, or take a knockout, and then you're able to go replace Lively Stadium, knockout Joltik, knockout Pikachu, go Iono, and then Blood Moon them. Pretty much force them to have pieces that they need to respond to that, or their own Blood Moon, or some combination of cards that they need. It's not bad by any means. Game 2, I priced Charlie and bricked. Game 1 was just, it was super close. I just didn't expect the Kieran, and the Kieran got me. So against that matchup, you really kind of you ignore Absol again, because they do have access to Leaves, and Leaves is like super, super, super bad for this. Like if Leaves is seen in high numbers, I believe that Mega Kangaskhan Absol just kind of like is one of those decks where it's like you can't really fall behind on it, because then it's just like Leaves is everywhere. It gets out of the clutch lock and stuff like that, and it hits your big attacker for weakness. So how to approach the Joltik Box matchup? It was just get out Kangaskhan and pray. It was get out Kangaskhan, make sure you have access to Blood Moon, Pecharon at any point. You can put down Yveltal, but then it's like a 2-prize liability. Having a Monkey Dory is fine as long as you have a Bravery Charm, because otherwise it's going to be an amp target. So yeah, that's really the way that I approach it. And then round 11, I played against Caleb Rogerson. They were on Dragapult, and game 1, I got Ichipollen locked to Oblivion, scooped the game immediately. Game 2 and 3 were in my favor. We played really, really quick, and that kind of demolishes Dragapult when you set up. Essentially, what you do is you get double Monkey Dory, you get Psyduck with Mist Energy, and then you get Mega Absol just ripping their hand to shreds, essentially. What Dragapult does is what I noticed Caleb doing is if he saw Duck in play, he just did not drop Duskull at all, which is like really smart because it stops late game clutch plays. Because no matter what, even if you evolve into the Duskull, even if you evolve into the Dusclops, you still have to attach 2 energy in order to move it with Psyduck in play, which gives me more turns to mess around with damage manipulation and go terminal period on their Dragapults. So saving your stadiums are imperative, because game 1, I will also say he opened up Jamming Tower, which was like, ugh. And I just did not find a way to find a stadium at all. And I was just like, well, I guess I just lose. I have to manually attach like 5 different freaking times. So Game 2 and 3 bricked him with the Absol. Managed to set up the Terminal Period play. The Call of Darknesses were just really kind to me. Getting out double Monkey Dory, like I said, if you can get out triple Monkey Dory, that's amazing. But really, like, double Monkey Dory is the key number plus side up with Mist Charm. Even like getting Lively Stadium just prevents that deck from dying at all. And I will also note in Game 3 prize double JP, I believe. So when I got the turn 2 Claw of Darkness and targeted down a Drapey with an energy, he just found the cloak and he did not have another way to get it. So I was like, okay, boss the Dracloak, and he's sitting there itchy pollinating, trying to like Night Stretcher and get the pieces back. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna sit here and just keep Claw of Darkness, and eventually I won. So those were all my matchups when it came to that. Going over, okay, so I went over Gary, went over Pulp. Dango. So Dango is like, it really depends on what version of Dango you play against. If you ended up playing against, is this, I go that. Ugh. Sorry, Lee. This is not for me. Actually, is that it? That went right to Modify. Trying to find out where Josh Frank is, because he and his group are the innovators of Agency Dango. So Agency Dango is obviously probably going to be the hardest variant that you end up playing against. Just purely because Lopunny is very annoying for this deck. One of the strategies that you kind of have to do in this deck is go for big Absol with Lively Stadium plus Bravery Charm, because they don't play too many Stadium cards, but the two that they end up playing is really annoying for you. But if you're able to get those out plus double Toadscruel, you don't evolve the Toadscruel at all. You wait to evolve into it, and you get out double Toadscruel, and you get the Absol, like I said, Bravery Charm, Lively Stadium. That thing has, what is that, 310, 360? Is that the number? Because, yeah, it's 360, so they have to get around that. They essentially have to nuke 8 energies, 1 on the Goldingo, and then after they do that, you put down Toadscruel. They need to respond with a Lopunny with one of their last 2 energies and kill the Toadscruel in the same turn. This list, of course, plays Rod and Lana's. Rod being in there is kind of annoying, but if you can snipe any of those pieces off with Claw of Darkness, it's really hard for them to do anything. You could also Claw of Darkness the Turo when you go to do it. One thing is, are they able to get the knockout turn 2 onto the Absol plus boss? Yes, it happens. Realistically, will it happen? No. That's why I'm saying, like, you just kind of go that route, and then from there on out, if you're able to clutch lock rocks, like, back-to-back turns after, like, they burn a Turo to kill you, or, like, if you rip a Turo and then they have to play Turo to bring up a rock, and you just trap the rock, you pretty much just win, because then you just Monkey Dory the damage from the poison, and you trap the other things that they can't attack with. So yeah, Dango's not impossible. It's definitely weird. But you get down to double Toadscruel, you get down to Absol, so you're able to energize to it, conserve your Evolatile Petrarch Faz package, and you should be good. Charizard, depending on the variant, is also extremely hard. What the hell is this? Oh my god, see, this card's a problem. This card is a problem. Damn, Sagen. What the fuck? I might end up playing this to a League Cup this weekend. That seems like a lot of fun, though. There's just a lot of pull in my area, and this card doesn't solve that. But anyways, so Terrazard, I will say, is probably the hardest one, just because Klefki Terabagos is really annoying. Klefki to pop Dusknoir pretty much just one-shots everything with Charizard in play, which is, you know, that's what happened to me at Seattle. Mine winning in, they just popped off. The 2-1-2 Pidgeot is now annoying to deal with, because now it's just more consistent to find it out, and Briar is just, you know, annoying. Essentially with this, you gotta set up Absol. Like, you gotta Absol Watchtower, stick them, and then Iono, and just hope it works. Same could be applied for Straight Zard. Straight Zard is a little bit easier, because their whole route literally is just Dusknoir plus Charizard. They do have Klefki, which is annoying, but it's like, if you can get it, you can get it. You chase Duskulls primarily anyways, so yeah, that's really what you gotta do. Oh, what am I missing? Crustle I don't even want to mention, because, like, the Crustle matchup's just impossible. Like, you gotta go Lively Stadium plus Bravery Charm onto Eveltal and just start swinging and get multiple Monkey Dories. They can just boss and get around it. It's just so annoying. I guess Monkey Frostlass is kind of worth mentioning a little bit, because it did see a surge in play over the weekend. I also want to pull up play. Frost Monkey Dory. We all know what happens here. I'm not even gonna give it this light today. That just kind of farms this deck. Slowking farms this deck. I don't even know what the hell this is. But anyways, the last one we're probably going to be talking about is going to be Monkey Frostlass. Depending on their list, if they play Mega Frostlass, the deck is very annoying to deal with, but it is also simultaneously a very easy matchup. All you do is you go Claw of Darkness, and you set up multiple Monkey Dories. You start chasing their Monkey Dories, and they eventually they eventually lose the Monkey Dory race. If they play Mega Frostlass, just be conservative with your Ionos. Whenever you think that they're gonna go, like, don't be run erranding unless you absolutely have a dead hand against the Badoo. If you clutch lock Badoo and put down Lively Stadium, it forces really weird math, and they're gonna be like, they're gonna either be prone to move off of the Badoo, so you can't just bump the Lively Stadium, or they can't bump it and then just lose. Because if they get knockouts, if you get knockouts going into either into your turn or where you can take multiple prizes in a turn, it's very bad for them, especially if you're able to energize really quick onto the monkeys. Being able to Claw of Darkness and prevent these kinds of plays is very good. I almost would argue possibly putting down Toad Scroll, because their only source of recovery is multiple copies of Night Stretcher. So if you're able to get down Toad Scroll, be able to snipe their monkeys or snipe snow runs, and then hold your Ionos, it's so bad for them. Like, absolutely abysmal for them, because they just cannot play around that. And if you're able to kill snow runs at the same time, go around them with your own, like, Adrenabrains and stuff before they turn into a big enough threat, then you're just safe. It's fine. So, I think that's... Oh my god, why is this a deck, bro? Mega Dragonite, 45%. Didn't I just see Mega Dragonite with Electric like 2 seconds ago? Or am I tripping? No, there it is. Ugh. But anyways, that is the Masterclass. I know I'm pretty bad at explaining stuff, but it's really just kind of a self-explanatory deck, and it just primarily plays by what the board is at the time, which is the biggest reason why I end up liking this deck. But yet again, thank you so much for watching and encouraging the Metafy guides, or like the master classes for this deck. Again, shout out to our sponsor EGS, Elite GameSpot. Be sure to go check them out, and I will see y'all later.